Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to the 32nd meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the THA. This is our committee's fourth public hearing pursuant to its inquiry into the financial oversight and financial management within municipal corporations. Members of the listening and viewing audience are invited to post or send their comments via Parliament's various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I would like to invite members of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government to please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Chair. Jennifer Daniel, Permanent Secretary.
Morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Raymond Sipol, Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary.
Welcome.
Morning, Chair, members of the committee. Esther Pilgrim-Soames, Director of Finance and Accounts, Acting, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Welcome. At this stage, I'd like officials of the Mayaro, Claro Regional Corporation to please introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Glenn Ram, Chairman of the Mayaro, Claro Regional Corporation.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Ashmin Mohammed, Chief Executive Officer, Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rajendra Sao. I'm the Financial Officer at Mayaro Regional Corporation.
Welcome. Would members of the Princestown Regional Corporation now introduce themselves?
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Gauri Rupnarayan, Chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Sharifa Hiru, Acting CEO of the Princestown Regional Corporation.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mahabir Gisan, the Financial Officer of Princeton Regional Corporation.
A warm welcome to you all. I am Dr. Varmadi Singh. I'm the chairman of this Service Commission and Statutory Authority, this Joint Select Committee. And now I'd like my Vice Chairman to introduce herself and our other members.
Good morning, everyone. Ramona Ramdial, Vice Chairman.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Amin, Opposition Senator, member of this committee.
Good morning. My name is Nigel De Freitas, member.
I would like to remind the members of the public that the objectives of this inquiry is to do three things basically. One, to examine the role of the line ministry and the executive management of the municipal corporations in promoting and facilitating accountability, transparency in the operations of the municipal corporation. Two, to assist the internal control systems within the municipal corporations. And three, to examine the proposed local government reform initiatives associated with the management of finances with the municipal corporations. At this stage, I would like the chairman, at this stage I would like the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government to please give us some opening statements which should not exceed 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. It is my pleasure and the pleasure of the representatives of the ministry to be here once again to meet with this committee as we conclude the deliberations with the final corporations. We again make ourselves available to respond to any issues that have been raised, that would be raised. And just to add that we have benefited tremendously from the point of view that there have been issues that have been raised at these hearings that have been informative and that we have had to pursue and to ensure that we put systems in place to treat with. So we have benefited and we are appreciative of the process. Thank you.
Ms. Daniel, I appreciate your effort every time we have this meeting and your interaction with us. And you have seen we have a lot of issues that have come to the forefront of the certain misgivings that occur in the corporations that I think we hopefully would be able to address in future. Some of them very alarming. At this stage, I would like Mr. Goy Rupnarang, the chairman of Princestown Regional Corporation, to please give opening remarks.
It's my first time to this here, and I'm very pleased to be here. I'm looking forward that this interview could help the corporation, that whatsoever we are willing to answer, the questions that we are willing to answer, but we are hoping as well that it will assist the corporation after we leave here and go back to our corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Goy Rupnarang. But again, it will help the country in a whole, because we have, as we have seen, we have looked at various corporations, and there are a lot of misgivings. We have seen from files, being waterlogged. We have seen accountant, the actual accounting mechanism lacking. We have seen fraudulent checks. We have seen CEOs come under scrutiny where they are aptly involved. The CEOs who should be looking at the run-ins are also involved. And I think the ministry now would have the challenge, how could we monitor the CEOs? And right spectrum, we have seen different corporations falling into different areas, falling into different, as we would say, different party areas, because we have different corporations falling. And the common thread we see is that corruption occurs in all corporations. So it is something, probably a common denominator in probably our national way of thinking, that you have, right through. What probably connects us as a people is corruption throughout the corporations. And again, we are looking at ways we could somehow tie this in. Look, there are procedures in place, but obviously it's failing, and it's failing as we know. So at this stage, I thank you for your presence here, and I hope you can give us some information. We can give you, and as a learning body, we can come out with something better. At this stage, I'd like to ask Mr. Glenn Ram, the chairman of Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation, to give us some brief opening remarks.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On behalf of the team here from the Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation, we are happy to be here this morning. As you said this morning, will be an interactive session. I know we are well prepared at Mayaro Claro this morning to answer any questions that may be forthcoming to us. And we look forward to fruitful discussions as we move forward in terms of any discussions that we may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ram. At this stage, we would like to open the floor for questions by members. And please be reminded that your questions should be directed through the chair. And persons are reminded that they need to activate their microphone when speaking and deactivate it. And as part of a little House committee procedure, please turn off your cell phones or put it on vibrate while the committee hearing is being established. Yeah. So, Mr. Ram, I know you have a problem with your seaweed in Mayaro Claro Corporation. And I realized that it was a challenging issue for members of the public attending, Mayaro and these Easter events. So it's challenging. And I'm glad you're here because you had a busy time this weekend. I would like to start the ball rolling by asking some questions, and specifically with reference to the infrastructural projects being undertaken by the corporation. Have there been any instances over the past 5 years in which contractors have been paid in advance for work which was not completed? And if yes, explain how the matters were resolved or addressed.
Mr. Chairman, Mayaro Claro, I have been there only 2 years, so I can categorically say in the last 2 years, no advance payment has been afforded to contractors. All the payments for contractors in the last 2 years have been worked at the completion of the projects. In our submissions, we did articulate a process, how we go about undertaking payment to contractors. I could furnish the committee with any data on the previous 3 years, which would be, let's say, 14 to 17. I would not say categorically no for those periods. But for the period 2017 to present, categorically no.
Chair, through you. With regards to this matter, though, there was on occasion previously where another regional corporation got into some hot waters because they were trying to secure the funding before the end of financial year. And I'm asking you, I know that in the last financial year, there were some late releases to regional corporations where development program funding is concerned. What are your challenges or the regional corporations' challenges with completing development projects when you have late releases? And specifically for the last ending of the last financial year, how have you been able to deal with it? Have you been able to utilize all the funding?
Again, on behalf of Mayaro again, in the last financial year ending September 30th, 2018, the Mayaro Claro Corporation ran over about 3 projects. And when I say ran over, it moved from the close of that fiscal year to this present fiscal year. One such job, a couple of such jobs were projects that were awarded under the Special Ministerial Tenders Committee Award. Now, when you have an award under the Special Ministerial Tenders Committee Award, what you normally have is a confirmation of funds. So the project is awarded based on your confirmation of funds. At the end of the completion of the project, again, you would then effect payment. You would notice again in our submissions, we have 2 or 3 such projects. Currently those projects, and we did even indicate how we view our project. We view our project completion in Mayaro, Claro. We view it is ended when we effect the payment. So there are a couple of projects that we are seeing right now at Mayaro are incomplete, not in terms of the actual work, but in terms of the effecting of the payment. Those SMTC awards we have applied to the Ministry of Finance for such payments to pay the contractors because the works have been completed. All right. That is about the major challenge we have in terms of last year's PSIP projects and completion.
So your challenge really is the delay from the ministry then, the line ministry, in securing payments?
Well, it's not the line ministry, i.e. the Ministry of Local Government and Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. It is from the Ministry of Finance. Okay. The documentation, the paperwork, everything has been there for quite a while. And we just are waiting the release of the check and the creation of the check in order to effect the payment to the contractor. But the works have been completed.
So you still have payments outstanding from last financial year?
Yeah.
For works completed because it has not been released from the Ministry of Finance?
Yeah.
Could Princeton come into this whole scenario now and explain, do you have a similar problem occurring in Princeton?
Should Mr. Chairman, the Princeton Regional Corporation does not have a similar problem. What would have happened as it pertains to the first question that would have been raised, the Princeton Corporation does not have any, has not in fact made any advance payment prior to the completion of any works. First to begin with. As it pertains to the releases and the development projects, we have been able to complete our projects based on the releases that would have been submitted to the corporation.
So is it that Rio Claro has certain projects that are exceeding the limits that you are getting?
Mr. Chairman, there are, in the last financial year, the Mayaro Claro undertook projects that fell under 2 categories. i.e. the sales award, which are projects under $300,000, and the Special Ministerial Tenders Committee awards, that is projects above $300,000. So for example, one of the projects we have outstanding for payment is the Mayaro market. That was in the vicinity of $490,000 for complete refurbishment. It is listed in our document as one of the projects. We've not had that money. As I said, the project was awarded based on confirmation of funds. That is, the Ministry of Finance will give you a document indicating that you have a confirmation which is equivalent to an assurance of funding, saying go ahead and do the project. You will receive the monies, right? The project has been completed. We've done the application. It's gone through our line ministry and has gone to the Ministry of Finance. And we are awaiting the Ministry of Finance releasing the funds in order that the ministry can now approach Comptroller Accounts in the preparation of a check to the corporation.
So has anything been started in the market? Or work has been done already, you're just waiting for payment?
Yeah, the work has been completed.
Completed, so okay. So
Yeah,
just,
that will be a project, as I said, that's a project that was undertaken under fiscal year 2017,
okay,
2018.
so just waiting that payment.
Yeah, Chairman.
Yes, sure.
My concern, and maybe the ministry could help answer, would this corporation or corporations who experience this issue run into legal issues with contractors who, after some time, may decide to sue the corporation, for instance, or take some type of legal action for delayed payment if so much time passes?
And probably the PS would come into this
I imagine that is always possible. I would want to give some perspective, and that is, now I don't know the facts of the particular projects and the facts of the matter, but it's very interesting because I think Princestown has been standout over the years, certainly last fiscal and even now, correct, Ms. Soanes, in terms of their projects, in terms of the timeliness of the commencement of their projects and their ability to execute and complete for the fiscal. But in terms of the question asked by the member chair, it is always a possibility that a contractor, I can't speak to that, it's a possibility.
Looking at the allocation of funds, I realized in the Rio Claro Corporation, there was some problems in getting funds for water supply and cesspit cleaning. Again, it seems that you may be starved for funds to provide essential services. There was a newspaper report, I think Mr. Ram had indicated that I think it went from $1 million to, I think it was $400,000 to provide the same service. And could you give us an idea? I mean, is this a pattern that has happened? Is it a similar thing also? So you will answer that, and I'm hoping Princestown will also come into play. Do you have a problem again with the water supply? You will, yeah. And Ms. Ramdale will ask a question after.
In terms of the issue of the truck-borne water supply that we will normally receive monies for under recurrent services, we have not received any funding for this present fiscal year. Yes, we have gone through the process and we have applied for funding, but we have not received any funding. Prior to that, our funding was approximately $1 million for truck-borne for 13 areas. This year, we have the same amount of areas, and our allocation is only $400,000. So we're in a predicament at this time because we have not received any funding, and we cannot provide the services to the residents of the region. So we are in a problem at this time.
I feel pains of your Burgesses, because this is what is essential, very essential supply at this stage.
In the Mayaro region, there are a number of beach facilities, and especially over the last Easter period, you had a lot of activity on the coast. Can I ask the chairman then, how have you been able to deal with supply of water or water trucking supply in the region in the absence of release of funds from the ministry?
Well, as I said, you remember we have 13 areas that are devoid of pipe-borne water. So persons depend on the Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation to supply water to these areas. At the present time, we have one water tender that is operating at the regional corporation. During that whole Easter weekend, we had to prioritize. We have to put systems in place to try to provide water. We had some discussions with WASA in terms of they're trying to assist in those areas. But as I said, the corporation was only able to do so much with one truck. It was a problem in the area because, I mean, the Easter weekend, you have an influx of persons coming into Mayaro. And we had a lot of calls coming into the office asking persons seeking water, but there was only so much that we could have done with one truck, one water tender that we have at this time at the corporation.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. To the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, in your submission, you noted that the council intends to acquire a device to detect counterfeit money to prevent the reoccurrence of counterfeit cash received by the corporation. Now, for me, this is a unique situation. Is it that you have a prevalence of counterfeit cash circulating in Mayaro, Rio Claro? And I understand that you intend on purchasing this device. So what's the estimated cost for this device?
Mr. Chairman, and to the member, this really was a one-off scenario in which, as in our submissions, we indicated that on the deposit to the bank recognized that one of the $100 bill deposited by the Mayaro Rio Claro indeed was a counterfeit bill. The number, I think, is registered in the submission. Coming out from that, obviously the deposit was adjusted downward. We have done what we can do in terms of internal training. I mean, most of us know we look for certain watermarks and what have you. We've done some little research with the nearby supermarket cashiers who seems to be on top of their game. We've done that. But we also were told that it's a very simplistic machine, something with a light. It's very cheap. I don't think it's something more than, very costly, something probably about $1,000. I can hazard a guess. I don't know exactly the price. But we are looking to acquire that in order to lend support for not to have a reoccurrence of such a matter. It's really only a one-off scenario at this stage where we've just to date, we've only had that instance one time, which is one $100 bill.
All right. To the Princestown Regional Corporation, have you had similar experiences with counterfeit cash circulating?
To the chairman, to the member, we have no such instance. Thanks.
I would like the Princestown Corporation to give me some feedback on the truck-borne water supply, because we are now looking at the truck-borne water supply of the Rio Claro Corporation. Do you have a similar problem in providing truck-borne water?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have the same problem in the Princestown Corporation, and also in terms of releases for water trucking. In our last financial year, our allocation was $400,000. And the end of the financial year, and we got no releases. We award the contracts, and we had to pay for that in this financial year. And in the dry season that we are in now, the situation after we had paid, we was just over $100,000. So we was only able to award contract for water trucking just for 2 weeks or so. We are fortunate that we have 3 water tenders in the corporation that we could assist. But at this time, it is a crisis within the Princestown Regional Corporation, because not only in the areas where we are responsible for assisting for water, even in the areas that WASA is responsible for now, the electorate is now coming to us, because not even WASA is supplying water. For instance, at this time, I can tell you in the Tablan area, they have not had water for over a month, and the people have been begging the corporation to assist for water. So it is a crisis within the Princestown Corporation at this time.
I'm sorry, it's a basic, supply of water is a basic need, and it's a pity. I apologize for that. I'm hoping we can get something to come about, with this committee that could make some recommendation, because it's a basic need that has been denied.
Chairman, the Princestown Corporation, in your submission, I observe that you have submitted a table that indicates that it costs approximately $181,000 for a 2-week period to do water trucking in 6 areas, which you listed. And you indicated this is the only 2 weeks that you have been able to go out. In terms of requesting additional funding, has any action been taken in that direction?
Through the chairman, member, as as the financial officer, I bought a program, a supplementary allocation to the council in January of this year, and the council approved that, and I have made a submission to the ministry, through the ministry to the budget division for supplementary allocation. Since then, we have had no releases, no additional funding on water.
All right. Now, while we lament the lack of releases from the ministry, I also want to look at the breakdown in your costs and the value for money in terms of the supply for each household. Do you have a rate to determine how much you pay contractors? Because from the costs supplied, it is clear that there are big differences in terms of per household. So one contractor would have been paid approximately $310 per household for the 2-week period. Another one was paid about $675 per household for the same 2-week period. I am sure you have ways to determine the cost based on the area to be supplied and so on. Can you give the committee an idea of how you determine what is fair, what is value for water trucking contractors?
Mr. Chair, the corporation seeks permission to provide this information in written submission, please. I'm unable to provide that information presently.
All right, but and may I ask you then, when your service is ongoing, what system do you have to monitor to ensure that the water is in fact delivered to whom it is supposed to be delivered, and that the volume is what you contracted the contractor to do?
Through the chair, I want to indicate that the corporation has the necessary supervisors in place to ensure that the water that is distributed to the persons who it's supposed to go to, right? There are checks and balances. The public health officers who are directly responsible for the exercise, they have the relevant checkers and all the necessary systems in place to ensure the checks and balances. And a report at the end of the fortnight is provided to the council for their information and verification.
How do you choose these contractors? What process do you use to, is it a transparent process to look at one contractor from another contractor? Could you give us an idea of your process?
Okay, through the chair, the information, we would invite tenders. First of all, advertisements are placed in the newspapers. Tenders are invited. We would have an opening, a public opening. Once there's a public opening, the contractors are invited to present their trucks to be used for inspection. The public health officers conduct a thorough investigations on the trucks, the tanks that would be holding the water. The relevant checks are carried out based on the report that is submitted. Right? This plays a critical part in the award, the actual award of the contract, because quite recently we would have had reports coming in after we would have done the award. We would have had the report coming in, and based on the inspection that would have been carried out, we would have recognized that a lot of the vehicles to be used were not suitable. In light of that, it would have narrowed down to about 4 or 5 contractors, as the case may be. And due to the fact that we would have had about 6 areas, if I remember correctly, we would have tried as much as possible based on the contractor's ability, on his availability of the trucks per se, to award the contracts. So it was done in a very transparent manner.
You have the process to look at it to see if it's working.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so.
I see in your report that you indicated water will only be distributed to persons having barrels and tanks, provided that they are fitted with proper covers. You also have a limit in terms of 1,515 liters of water will be given per household on an approximate 5 working day cycle. Seeing that you advise residents to have proper fitted covers, is the quality of water provided, is it drinking quality water?
To the chair, yes, the water is potable water.
Again, to the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, I see you indicated in your submissions that you have a donation register. Can you tell me the reason for this, please?
Mr. Chairman, to the member, before I answer the question, I just want to alert the committee that our submissions at page 15, on page 15 of our Objective 2, Item 1, I will have to think it's a typographic. I discovered it only on my way up this morning. It says the accounts of the corporation up until fiscal year ended September 30th, 2009 have been audited by the Auditor General's Department. I wish to make the correction indicated it's really 2008, up till 2008. So 2009 is at the Auditor General awaiting audit verification. So I just want to... Right, and I do apologize on behalf of the corporation for the error. Okay.
So the oversight of any sort of a financial impropriety really depends on your internal auditing system. Also, the fact that the Auditor General will come in and check. But you're saying that the Auditor General has not made any sort of...
Mr. Chairman, these are our final, this is our financial statements at the end of the financial year. Mm-hmm. We have submitted all to the Auditor General, save and except the last financial year, which is ongoing at this stage. But the audit process, the final auditing process by the Auditor General, they've only completed up to 2008.
Right.
In our submission, we indicated 2000. That's the correction I'm alerting you to now.
So I'm hearing this morning that factors outside the corporation may be responsible for some of the failures or misgivings of the corporation. Mm. Financial oversight from the Auditor General and probably finances not coming in to service the corporation in vital instances. I think Ms. Ramtiel has a...
Yes, going back to my question, please. Your donations, I understand you have a donations register.
Yeah, this started primarily out of the huge flood in the last couple of months. And we got from some foreign persons the donation of a dinghy, right? And when we looked at it is that we recognized a lot of donations sometimes come to the corporation. Well, it was heightened during that period. Mm-hmm. And we recognized that we needed to have some documentation and some paper trail to indicate what company X sent, what company Y sent. So we started a donation register. Mm-hmm. Right? So it is imperative that everything that comes into the corporation is recorded into that donation register. It is kept at the Secretariat Department, the Corporate Secretary's office, so that everything that comes into the corporation via the donation is entered there and documented.
I also see in your submissions that you had some misappropriation of some toilet paper. What actions are being taken to rectify further misappropriations? And by a driver from the corporation, what sort of disciplinary action has been taken against that driver?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you would see that the police And I would have to say with a change of the police head, we were able to get a report, a closure. And you had seen the report as in our submissions. They've indicated that the statutory period for laying any criminal charges against the person has expired. Right? Fundamental tenet of disciplinary action also is that when you're undertaking discipline, it's supposed to be with a level of immediacy. Right? I mean, this incident has happened close to almost a year and a half, a year minimum. There was no action taken. Well, when I say there was no action, you are anticipating that coming out of the glaring evidence that seems to have been available is that the matter would have been dealt with via the municipal police. And we only got a closure to that the week before our submission here, when we had on board a new officer who completed the investigation and indicated that no further action can be taken because the statutory period has elapsed. I don't know if it's fate, but the very driver involved is right now the subject of another disciplinary action. So, on one instance,
is he still employed?
Is he still employed at the corporation as?
Yeah. But
during an ongoing investigation?
Well, there is a current investigation in terms of the use of a truck, right? And not necessarily the use of the truck, let me clarify. Whilst driving the truck and his behavior towards members of the public. So that, and there was also some reckless driving and what have you. And the tribunal that was set up for that has been completed. The chairman of that disciplinary tribunal is due to pronounce, I think, in a further week or so to complete the written determination and reconvene the tribunal to issue the decision. If I say what is the decision, then I'm usurping the function of
definitely.
The chairman of the tribunal.
We wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah.
But
We don't want to go there.
I would like to say, but what caused the delay in the initial, the initial charge that came about? What caused that delay, and how could you prevent that from happening?
The matter was remitted to the municipal police, as you see in my submissions. You have to be very wary of sometimes trying to get involved in the police matters because it's a kind of gray domain about the operations of civilian and police, and
the police, the municipal police, falls under your direction also. So in terms of an investigation and speeding it up, wouldn't that fall under your purview?
Mr. Chairman,
just some clarification we need, because if it happens again, we want to know what is in place for speeding up the process.
There has been over some time, right? And I will use it two examples. A previous municipal inspector who felt that the CEO wasn't his immediate supervisor. I've had over the last month an officer coming, a municipal inspector coming on board who have recognized that the CEO is a boss, right? So what I have been able to achieve via the municipal police in the last month is in stark contrast what I achieved with the municipal police prior.
Okay.
So there's no line of organizational structure within your corporation?
Mr. Chairman.
Why are you putting one in place then?
Mr. Chairman, there has always been one. There's always been a clear demarcation that the municipal police falls under the ambit of the corporation, and by extension, the CEO is the administrative head.
Sure.
Right? But again, it's subject to interpretation by the individual.
That's the problem.
That was the problem.
Yeah. Just a further question to the permanent secretary. In light of what the CEO from the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation has just said, is there an overarching policy handed down by the ministry with respect to workers under police investigations? Is there a policy? Is there any sort of guidelines or rules or any conventions that can be followed with respect to existing workers under police investigation?
With respect to the public service, public officers, it is very clear. Where you are a subject of an investigation, their procedures. It is not as clear with respect to daily paid officers, and I don't know the specifics of the situation, but I am guessing that the person is a daily paid officer. So that for public officers, yes, they would be they would have to, it becomes a disciplinary matter for the public service person. In terms of the first part of your question, I think the CEO has made it very clear in his response that he is fully cognizant of the fact that as CEO, he is the person who is responsible. That was very clearly conveyed by him. So it is the CEO, and I imagine where there are challenges with someone who is under your authority, then it is up to you to treat with the matter so that there is no doubt.
I just wanted to get from the corporations a practical view, because when you have daily rated workers who fall under a union, any form of discipline, the union often intervenes. And I know that there has been expressions of frustration in terms of the position the union would take. How have your approach to discipline with these type of workers or workers involved or under investigation, how has it been? How has your process for disciplining workers been treated?
In the Mayaro Claro Corporation, I can safely say it seems that we do have quite a number of disciplinary action that is undertaken. When we undertake a disciplinary action, we have obviously the necessary reports from the supervisors. We also ask the workers to present their own reports. The due process is followed. When we convene a disciplinary hearing, there's a recommendation that will come out of the Industrial Relations Department whether disciplinary action should be pursued. If that recommendation comes from the Industrial Relations Department, a note is written to the CEO. I would determine a chairperson. From sometimes you look at what is the potential ramifications. You would then determine there are some actions in the collective agreement that requires a category of officer undertaking the chairmanship of the tribunal. So as the CEO and after some experience, you would gather where one would lead. So you would know what level of officer you would put to chair some offenses. Once you appoint the chairman, the union is duly informed that when the hearing is to be convened, and as usual, the processes are followed. Witnesses can be called on behalf of the aggrieved worker. The hearing goes on. The chairman would normally make their decision and get back to the committee, and whatever measures, disciplinary measures is recommended will be undertaken. If it's suspension, if there's no clear evidence, the worker is exonerated, whatever is the determination, that takes place.
So you're tied down by again, probably the unions also coming into play, then sometimes workers who may not be falling the chain of authority. It's like the tail wagging the dog. Eh?
Well, the union...
You know, so you have that issue where you may not be able to actually enforce or ensure that your workers follow your directive. So you have been putting things in place for that.
I personally at Mayaro have not found the union to be difficult in terms of, obviously the union makes representation. That's part of their function, to make representation. But I have not found it to be a challenge. Right? I think clearly our mode of undertaking actions has stood up over time.
Member De Freitas would have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning again. So we have interviewed quite a number of corporations thus far, and there's been a common thread through the majority of them in relation to the presence of a financial officer at the corporation. Now, I noticed that both the Princestown Regional Corporation as well as the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation both have a financial officer. One of the issues that the other corporations outlined was the ability to hire and retain a financial officer, and there was a requirement to have certain criteria for that post, that is the ACCA certification, the chartered accountants and whatnot. what has both the Princeton and the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation done differently that you've been able to hire and retain a financial officer where other corporations have failed?
Through the chair, I would want to say at the Princeton Regional Corporation, the financial officers, the position of the financial officer, that position has constantly been filled. Yes. On completion of the officer's contract, we have been fortunate, well, considering the recruitment process after the interviews and what have you, we have been fortunate to get a financial officer in place. In the absence, if maybe a month or two, the note is taken to the council seeking approval to retain the financial officer on a month-to-month contract until the position is filled at the ministry's level.
So I'm going to assume that the person who's been in that post has not been the same person, let's say, over the last 10 years. It's been different people?
Through the chair, we are fortunate again. It would have been the same person, Mr. Kisan, Mahabir Kisan.
Okay, so you have one person that is renewing the contract and staying in the post. So again, because you're right, at Princeton, I'm seeing person has 23 years experience. And I'm just trying to find out why there's success in two corporations and it's so hard in the others. And I'm just trying to find out if you all are doing something different or if it's just pure luck.
So, Mr. Chairman, Princeton might be fortunate. I said I'd assumed in Mayaro approximately 2 years ago. We did not have a financial officer for a period from 2017 for about 6 months. There was an interregnum of about 6 months prior to Mr. Sao coming on board in May of 2018. So we've not been that fortunate. But however, the position of financial officer is one that is provided to the municipal corporations and Mayaro especially to the ministry. So they undertake the recruitment and selection process, and on determination, they allocate an officer to the various corporations. And in our case, Mr. Sao went through that process and was allocated to the Mayaro Rio Claro Corporation in May 2018.
So then it begs the question to the ministry. Maybe the ministry is best suited to answer that question. Can you indicate what would cause the success in these two corporations, but the other corporations have difficulty?
Through you, Chair, as explained by Mr. Mohammed, it's not a matter of luck so much. Given his own experience at that corporation, it has to do with the point in time. So right now, both corporations have the positions filled. At this point in time, all but one corporation, because we did share with you previously that we went through the recruitment process and we were able to bring persons on. The last position to be filled, the person is currently out of the country, but on her return, she is supposed to assume within a month. Although just to share with you, just to be frank, the person had a preference in terms of the district that they would have preferred, the corporation they would have preferred to serve at. So we are hoping that given that she was not placed where she preferred to be, closer to home basically, that she will assume. And that is our reality. For some persons, it has to do with a job, being in a location that you are comfortable with, and so on. I would add that we had shared previously that the remuneration is an issue. We did make a representation to the CPO, and I imagine I should say that we were successful. However, we weren't really as successful as we had hoped. We got an increase, and I don't want to breed discontentment with the financial officers we have here. So I probably shouldn't continue on this.
But could you
on
mention
this
how
note.
much you got the increase by? I mean, you wouldn't want to say that? Yes,
No,
okay.
no, that is.
What
that
I
is-
would say, what would favor the persons here is that we will continue to make representations. We are not satisfied, but it is an increase. So, and we are heading in the right direction in that we have been able to fill positions that had previously not been filled.
So you were saying, and just to move along that line, because it's not very often that we are doing inquiries and before the full inquiry is done that we are getting feedback on the interviews that would have gone prior. So it's very good news to hear that these positions are being filled, because what we did realize with the other interviews that are gone was that these financial reports were outstanding for quite a number of years in some of the corporations. And that's why it stood out to me that the mere fact that Princestown and Mayaro had financial officers and had this position filled for quite a bit of time, that when you look at the financial reports, they're up to date, and it's just at the level of the Auditor General that you're seeing where there's a little backlog there, which is completely out of the corporation's control. So it's very good to hear that these positions in the other corporations are being filled. So can we have some assurance that these other corporations will now move with some level of speed to have their financial reports brought up to date, given that these positions are filled? You said it was all, or just one that's outstanding right now, but soon to be taken up, yes? All right, that's very good news, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, before we move away from that topic, I just want to ask, in terms of the appraisal for the officers, the appraisals are done at close to the expiration of their contract and sent to the ministry. So is it that the corporations have the opportunity to see how the performance of their financial controller is, and does it influence their being given another contract period?
Yes, Chair, through you, yes, it definitely does play a part. And honestly, again, because of the issues that have been raised in this forum, it has become even a measure of assessing and certainly of expectations for deliverables on the part of the financial officers. That has been even more emphasized.
And I also want to ask, I want to remind this committee and the members of the public that the appointment of financial officers is an interim measure put in place because the Act 21 of 1990 provides for chief officers, including chief financial officer, and the chief officers have not yet been, for some reason, there has not been an application of that part of the Act. Can we have, because this will be our final hearing with these regional corporations on this matter, can we have an update from the ministry as to if efforts are being made to have chief officers, including chief financial officers, placed at the regional corporations, and what are the challenges?
Chair, through you, the ministry would have shared on a previous occasion that while the Act speaks to chief officers and the positions are permanent pensionable positions, the use of positions on contract, I don't know that it is seen as interim from the point of view that there is a legal notice that confers all of the powers of chief officers to these designated persons, and I have the legal notice in front of me, so that the corporation secretary, corporate secretary on contract, treasurer, financial officer, and so on, so that there is no failure in terms of the powers of the persons in those offices.
No, the question was with regards to if it's going to be implemented and what are the challenges. What we miss with contract officers is continuity in cases where people don't stay for the longer than a 1-year contract period. But if you could update us as to what the challenges are with filling the chief officer's positions. If you don't have the answer now and you want to send it.
The positions are not actually vacant. They were never created in a permanent capacity. So it's not a situation where the positions are not filled. Well, except I think for a treasurer position at one of the corporations. But for the rest, the positions have never been created in a permanent way. In terms of the future, I can't speak to that. If it is seen as something that is immediate and that has to be attended to, I think the ministry is satisfied that the arrangement that exists currently, and even in the case of Princestown, we see that there has been continuity. The person has served well, and the person has been contracted over a period, over and over again. I suppose one can argue that where the performance has not been as stellar, possibly as the financial officer at Princestown, the opportunity would then be the possibilities that the person would not be continued. And I suppose therein lies what some would see as an advantage in the other arrangements. I think there's a give and take for both.
Well, Permanent Secretary, I look at an article on the 3rd of August 2017 in the Guardian newspaper, Bobble probe underway at Princestown Regional Corporation, where the local government minister, Kazim Hussain, said he is going to adopt a zero tolerance stance against allegations of corruption and corrupt behavior. And in his release, he stated that he would have a corporation audit be undertaken. Also, a recommendation he made was, in terms of persons having to report levels of corruption, there should be a way of having a phone-in. Somebody can phone, use a line to your ministry to get that level of corruption. So 2 things I want to ask. Has that probe audit been undertaken, and has it been completed? And 2, is there the hotline that the minister suggested should have been implemented since 2017 being established?
Chair, I cannot speak at this point to the Princestown audit. I can say that there are and have been a number of audits, and when I speak to audits now, at the level of the Auditor General's Department, a number of audits have occurred at various corporations. So audits have occurred. I can't speak to the Princestown matter arising in 2017 specifically, but I'm saying that audits from time to time have occurred at the level of the Auditor General's Department. In addition, internal audits are conducted from time to time, specific audit inquiries, investigations, as matters are brought to the attention of head office, and that practice continues.
You're speaking about internal audits within each corporation?
Chair, I think, again, at the very start, we had indicated that a number of corporations, these 2 present with us today, being 2 of those, do not have an dedicated internal audit section. The head office internal audit would be responsible for doing auditing work, and that would include audit inquiries or specific investigations from time to time. And I think we had also indicated that in the past few months, what we had introduced was a system of rotating the auditors to different corporations to do intense work for a period of 1 month under the guidance of the CEO.
Well, I'm pleased that has been implemented, but I'm looking at if the minister had given an undertaken that would have occurred since 2017. I was hoping by now we would have had some sort of answers. So is Ms. Esther Pilgrim being able to give us some sort of feedback of any audit that has occurred in the corporations, especially Princestown, since that was highlighted by the esteemed minister.
Chair, I am unable to provide such information at this time.
Could we get it in writing, please?
The last audit we have from the Auditor General with respect to Princestown is 2016. Right? The 2017 financial statement was submitted, and the Auditor General is yet to report on that statement. As said, just said by the Permanent Secretary, the Internal Audit Department, they are responsible for providing the service to the corporations that do not have an internal audit department.
Well, I guess the directive that the minister gave should be, I think, should be forthcoming soon in terms of not just providing the internal audit, but of actually ensuring that his request be made.
Mr. Chairman, for the purpose of the public information, can you just share when you have audits from Auditor General and you have delays for in some periods 10 years in some cases, how does that interfere with the operation of the regional corporation as opposed to the audit by the regional corporation themselves, the internal audits?
Chair member, with respect to the two corporations that are here, they are basically up to date because they have submitted, both corporations have submitted financial statement for 2017. So it's only the 2018 statements are outstanding. With respect to Mayaro, Claro, as the CEO said previously, the 2008 was audited. So that problem is not the problem of the corporation, but at the Auditor General side. With respect to Princestown, the Auditor General has audited 2016, so they are basically up to date with the audit. In the meantime, the Internal Audit Department responsible for the ongoing oversight of what goes on in the corporation, because the Internal Audit Department is supposed to be a tool of the management.
Mr. Chair, just going a little further in relation to statements just made. So you're saying, is it Princestown or is it Mayaro where the Auditor General is up to date in terms of assessing its report? Princestown. Right. That's the Auditor General, yes? Has the Auditor General, sorry, given any feedback as to why it's taking so long for Mayaro, Claro?
Chair member, I have no information. I cannot pronounce on that.
I'd like to just establish the fact. Mr. Ram, I think, mentioned the fact that there was the private funds coming in through their donations. Items coming in, items. Is this a practice in all corporations that exist? Does Princestown also have that donation policy that corporate citizens may be able to donate certain things? And I'm seeing the Rio Claro's attempt to put some level of accountability into what they get and where it is disbursed. Does the Princestown Corporation have a similar policy? And so I'm directing that question to you. And then in terms of the ministry, is that a standard policy where these outside corporations can get funding? Is there something in place to prevent some sort of corrupt practices that being given? So one question directed to Princestown, do you have a policy like that? And number two, to the Permanent Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, at the Princestown Regional Corporation, what we have is an established chairman fund. However, we never collect any donation from any private citizens. We have never done that before.
So in this fund, how do you get allocations from this? Via the Ministry of Finance?
the Princess Down Promenade that was developed not really with a location from the corporation. And that is what we put into the chairman fund. However, at this time, not even that is used by the corporation.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair,
Let's go with, who would be the first?
Yeah, Chair, let me clarify now. In 2016, we had established the chairman fund account, right, which is separate from the consolidated fund. And it was also established in the resolution of council that the funding from the promenade, the Princess Promenade, will be directed towards the chairman's fund account, and that is what that went into the chairman's fund since then, and until the new piece of legislation come into recently, and that was stopped when the Minister of Finance made that part of the statement. Since then, we had stopped placing any funding from the promenade into the chairman's fund account, and it is now directed into the consolidated fund. Apart from that, the council had also made a resolution to have the same funding, 100% of that goes to the chairman fund account, and we have made an application through the ministry to the minister for approval, and that is where we stand at the moment.
Do you mind clarifying the statement you made about the minister's statement in terms of the fund? Right, the act had stated that the chairman's fund, the corporation can establish a chairman's fund, which we can have donations and as such come into the fund, into the chairman fund account, and the chairman can use these funding to help alleviate some issues in the region, like donation to the clubs and charitable institutions. That was established in 2016 for the purpose, and the funding, as I just said in the beginning, went to from the promenade into the account until January of this financial year, and it had stopped since the Minister of Finance had made went and but all corporation was supposed to stop the funding going to the chairman fund, and this is where we are at this point in time. And due to that, we have, as I said before, we had made a resolution. The council had passed a resolution to have the funding, 100% of that funding goes to the chairman fund again, and we had written to the ministry, through the ministry to the Ministry of Finance for the approval, which we are waiting now. Approval to put it in the consolidated fund?
No, to place the funding from the promenade to put into the chairman's fund account.
So therefore, the chairman fund is, you are basically
yes, stop
not,
everything.
It's still active, is it?
It's still active, and until we get that approval from the Minister of Finance to continue the.
And does Rio Claro have that chairman fund still existing?
Mr. Chairman, the Rio Claro Corporation, we have our two established funds, which is for the consolidated fund and the chairman's fund. However, in this scenario that started this discussion was where we said in the Mayaro Rio Claro Corporation, we established a donation register. And I want to read specifically from page 12 of my submission.
Sure.
It says a donation register was established to keep track of donated items. Senior officer of the corporate advised to have all instructions relative to any item donated to the corporate recorded in the register and approved by the CEO. There is absolutely no funds that go into this register. We do not accept cash. When we talk about donations, and I said this, the genesis of this was in the big flood, where people were donating food stuff, toilet paper, we come up again, dishwashing, no, not dishwashing, cleaning liquids, the whole gamut of flood relief items. And like I said, the standard one we had in Mayaro was from two foreign persons in Britain the dinghy, right? So when we saw that coming, we recognized that we had to have some accountability and some measure of accounting for what was donated. So as it came into the corporation, and hence the reason I said all these things, people were just receiving things. It was a bit of a frenzied approach during the flood. Eh? So what we tried at best, and we may have missed things, is that when items came in, we entered it into the register. So at least, bearing in mind it was from the public, we viewed it as having that some measure to account for what the public donated. So you could have said 100 pounds of flour was donated by Mr. X, was distributed, Mafikin, or some, in case the person wanted any feedback on their donation.
Well, I applaud your levels of trying to seek accountability. But remember, gift giving is something that we have to be very suspicious of, especially what we have been seeing across certain corporations. And I'm clearing something. So you do not have in the Princestown a donation registry, but you have a chairman's fund still existing, but in abeyance right now. But so do you receive funding from any sort of private enterprise? Let's say some private enterprise wanted to donate some money. Do you have any sort of donations coming in terms of funds in cash to the chairman's fund or any sort of fund you have set up?
Chairman, at this point in time, no.
And does the Rio Claro, do you have any sort of funds available where corporate citizens could put monies into your? No. Okay. And to the Ministry, Permanent Secretary, is this an acceptable practice to get funds? Is there a level of accountability? Should something be put in place? Because I'm understanding the Minister of Finance had some reservations about the fund before. But has any checks and balances been put in place where if you're getting funds, how you would look at that fund, disperse it, account for it to make sure that, that level of gift giving is not there to get favors done?
I will ask the DFA to elaborate on this issue, but I think generally it is not an issue of persons receiving funding in that way, but in her explanation it will be clear as to how funds, the monies that make up the chairman's fund, how it is derived. Please treat it.
Chair Member, the Act provides, Section 110 of the Act provides for a mayor's fund for the purpose specified in the resolution. So the corporation, the councils will have the resolution, and they will apply to, they will submit it to the Minister of Rural Development for approval. Section 2 says the revenue of the mayor's fund shall be derived from such donations and other contributions as may from time to time be received for the mayor's fund. And the mayor's fund is audited by the Auditor General separate from the consolidated fund. So it is separate. The Finance Act 19 of 2018, which was assented to on 31st December 2018, there was an amendment to the Municipal Corporation Act that says a council may deposit into and withdraw from the mayor's fund such monies, fees, and charges collected by the corporation as the minister with responsible for finance may authorize. The ministry has written to the Ministry of Finance requesting, guidelines how to effect the amendment. We are still waiting on the response from the Ministry of Finance.
And how long have you been awaiting this? Could you elaborate?
Pardon, sir?
How long have you been waiting for the ministry's response?
We sent, the first request was made on the 24th of January. We sent one on the 7th of February, the 26th of February, and we had to follow that up with a meeting on the 9th of this month, which was convened by the Controller of Accounts.
Chairman, the amendment allows each corporation to get approval from the ministry to move funds from the consolidated funds to use fees and so on and put it towards the chairman's fund. This did come to Parliament, and there was a debate on it. My concern is in terms of the use of these funds, apart from auditing, do you have or do you intend to provide a policy, a guideline in terms of what the funds could be used for? Because my concern is that the fees generated from the market should generally be used towards the improvement of the market. The fees generated from the use of the cremation site should help improve the cremation site. However, very often, the chairman's fund and the mayor's fund could be used to make contributions towards charitable events, to host cultural programs, to have social events, and so on. And the concern is that the fees from the market and the cremation site and other revenue derived from the services of the corporation could now be going towards FETIN in an extreme case, but certainly it would not be going towards what the intention should be. My concern is now with this new requirement or new allowance to allow the revenue to go towards the chairman's and mayor's fund, if you would have new guidelines for the use of these funds.
Chair, member, that is what we await from the Ministry of Finance. We asked for the guidelines and the procedures to effect the amendment, and we did put forward some controls that could be considered in so doing. I say so, member, what you just mentioned was one of the controls that we put forward.
Okay. I have one question, Chairman. The Princeton Corporation, it was stated that there were 2 cases of fraudulent incidents perpetrated against the corporation by an external company. I want to ask what modifications has the corporation made in its internal controls in an effort to deter or hinder future attempts at fraud?
To the chair, the member, at this moment, after the incident, we have introduced to any company or person making any payments to the corporation to do it in cash or in certified checks. And we have, in our corporation, we have we indicate that by a written on our notice board that any payments to the corporation will be by check, by certified checks or cash only.
But during the tenure of the current council, have there been any instances of missing financial documents or arms and ammunition? Because in your submission, you describe the current security arrangements in place, for the safety and storage rooms. So have there been any instances of missing arms, ammunition, or financial documents?
Chairman, at this point in time, no.
Chairman, I just want to follow up on the question that I asked earlier with regard to the attempts to fraud the corporation. The corporation, the contractor involved, is this contractor still being allowed to tender for projects, even though he produced a bounce check? Or is there a hold on that person offering it?
To the chair, the contractor is not allowed. He has not been allowed to.
I think we had elaborated to the ministry that via the APS that the systems of looking at the contractors, red flagging certain contractors who may not have been given work, that it's worth, satisfactory work, that since the purview is under the ministry of your ministry, at least you have that red flag of the contractors to know when they're hiring them at further instances. I think you said that will be undertaken sometime in the future.
Chair, strictly speaking, it is not under the purview of the ministry. What has been made clear from the start is that the CEOs are accounting officers, and they have to ensure that systems are in place in their house. What I can say is that recently we convened, there was a meeting with the procurement regulator, a very helpful meeting, with the ministry, the CEOs, and the chairman of councils, actually, to provide information and in terms of what the practice should be going forward. I think the regulator committed to even meeting with members with each council individually to provide guidance for what is to come, so that I don't want to take away from the fact that, yes, there are things that the ministry will do, but it's up to the corporations at the level of the CEO to put systems in place.
And I drew in a previous meeting we had that even the CEO needs to be monitored, because there are instances where the CEO was allegedly involved in certain corrupt practices. So who will guard the guards? Eh? So I'm pleased that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act will be coming into force soon. And I'd like to ask the members of the corporation, did you set up an office already in preparation of this public procurement? And, you know, because it's coming in soon, and you are mandated by law to set these bodies up in your own internal auditing departments. Could you give me some idea? First Princestown, and then we'll Claro.
Through the chair, based on discussions being held with the ministry and guidance being given to the corporations, we are in the process of putting the necessary things in place to deal with all that is required based on the legislation forward.
So who are the members of the committee? Because I think you are mandated to set up a committee. Who are the members of this committee? And have you sought procurement training for staff responsible for executing the functions?
Through the chair, the committee consists of, well, the CEO, the financial officer, the chief technical officer, who is the engineer, and the county superintendent. Presently, that is what our committee comprises of. And based on the other resources as it pertains to training, we are in discussion with the ministry as to have the necessary training provided to the officers.
Would Mayaro, Rio Claro, seek to elaborate on their perspective on the procurement committee that is due to be established, or should have been established, or in the process of being established?
Mr. Chairman, at Mayaro, Rio Claro, that's in our submission on page 20. Arising from that meeting that the PS spoke about, I think the PS at that meeting specifically answered my question, and she said, Mr. Mohammed, you would have to, whatever staff you have right now, that is going to be the staff until the specialists are provided. I will have to work the system. Notwithstanding that, the existing staff who is referred to as the tenders clerk in the corporation was sent on training. The training was articulated, the financial ethics and procurement on 11th and 12th March, and was also sent on the financial and approach of procurement on the 6th to the 8th of February 2019, which is quite recent. In addition to that, corporate secretary at the ministry, at the regional corporation, Mayaro, who, well, she's on vacation also at this time. We've been going through aspects of the Act, which is really, if you want to call it, the basic aspects of the Act that we can deal with. And we have been working on that. We have also further developed the annual procurement listing for all departments. You see, we also indicated it's required by the Public Procurement and Disposal of Property Act has been completed. That is what we are doing in terms of preparation for the expected new procurement legislation. I saw Princeton articulated a position where they were highlighting what they currently undertake. We have something similar in which all tender evaluation is evaluated by a line officer with support, right? In other words, if it's a procurement issue that comes out of the public health department, the head of the public health department, that will be the doctor along with a team, would sit down and do the evaluation. If it's a tender that's coming out of the engineering department, the engineer will sit for that. And as we say, basically, whatever is the item to be procured, the committee will be determined by where that item falls. Right? And so basically that, and the committee makes a recommendation. Once it's keeping like with issues of NIS, VAT, PAYE, a new, in terms of infrastructural project, what is something that has come on board is the fact that we have to be OSH compliant. So that is now a factor that we have to take in when we are building estimates and undertaking work, especially if you're in the Mayaro region. It's also the region that houses a lot of the offshore platforms and contractors who are guided by very stringent and strict OSH requirements. So we've had a lot of visits from the OSH board who expect us to be performing at that level, and we really have some challenges in meeting the standards required in terms of our funding and having our workers and our systems in place for that. But that's where we are in terms of public procurement, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Amin?
Chairman, there have been concerns from other regional corporations that even though the regional corporations have interviewed and have sent to the ministry a recommended list of contractors, that you have not had approvals for contractors since 2015. Is this the case in Princeton and Mayaro regional corporations, and how is this affecting your ability to carry out your functions?
Through the chair, the Princeton Regional Corporation faces a similar situation as the other corporations as it pertains to the list of contractors that would have been submitted, right, since 2015. Those contractors, we have not had approvals, right? However, the list of existing approved contractors at the corporation are what are being utilized, and it's quite a lengthy list. So it's not really affecting what works have to be conducted at the corporation.
Mr. Chairman, at page 32 of our submission, we indicated clearly the corporation has not approved any contractors the corporation has no approved contractors for fiscal years 2015 to 2019. The authority to do so rests with the Minister of Finance. However, the 99 contractors who have been pre-qualified by the corporation were submitted to the Ministry of Rural Development and looking for its onward transmission to the Ministry of Finance, to the Minister of Finance for its approval of the contractors. We've also, for ease of reference, we have attached a list indicating the 99 that was pre-qualified by the corporation for the years 2015 to present. We also indicated to you a list of those contractors who have been approved prior to 2015. Sad to say that we have to follow the dictates of having only those that have been approved, registered and approved, so that we only go with contractors on our listing approved until 2015. And that listing is appended for ease of reference also.
Chairman, 2015 is 4 years ago. I'm sure because regional corporations provide employment for people within the region, many even smaller contractors who have laborers within the region that you represent, and your burgesses will be affected directly as well. I am sure that this must be a concern for the elected representatives, certainly, that their burgesses would have been denied the opportunity to do work for the corporation. And in previous hearings, there were corporations who indicated that from time to time, they use an open tender policy to allow persons who may not have been registered from 2015, but who meet other requirements, other financial requirements, an opportunity to share in the pie, so to say. Is this a consideration that either corporation has given to open it up, as they say, rather than stick to the approved contractors that you have had no addition to since 2015?
Through the chair, the Princeton Regional Corporation, we have only apply this to the registered approved contractors. We have not gone the way as indicated by the member.
To stay within the parameters of the regulatory framework, I'm only empowered to undertake the contractors registered up until 2015.
I don't know if the permanent secretary or anyone from the ministry could provide some information so that other corporations would not be running afoul of the regulations, but at the same time would not be doing a disservice to the small contractors in particular within the region.
Chair, this issue, the process is that the corporation would write to the ministry, and the ministry would in turn write to the Ministry of Finance. That has been done over time, and in fact, coincidentally, the ministry in March 15th, by memos dated March 15th, the Central Tenders Board responded to the numerous requests over the years for additional contractors to be included. And if I may, I will read what was conveyed to us. They refer to our applications requesting approval for the registration of contractors for X district, X corporation. Please be advised that the applications were submitted to the Minister of Finance for approval. No approval was granted in the circumstances. The undermentioned applications are returned. We have followed up with the Central Tenders Board, and we need to be mindful of what is happening. There is the procurement regulator to come on the scene, and what we have been told informally is that in a way these things were held in abeyance because of the expectation. We have spoken to the CTB quite recently on the matter as to whether in that kind of scenario, whether the corporation should go out to open tendering, and it did indicate that that would be acceptable. So the ministry will advise. Now, some of the corporations, as has been shared with us here, have been doing that. I think even Princestown, when you shared earlier on about your water trucking contract, you mentioned that you use the open tender system, so that it is used, and we are now saying that we have been advised that that is an acceptable way to go about your business until the new procedure comes into place.
Well, we could probably share that information to the rest of the corporations, because some have things that are working in some aspects and other aspects are deficient. So probably the ministry may take that line of action.
Thank you, Chair. My last question to both regional corporations. How do you currently maintain your financial records? Is it purely manual, or do you have part digital, part manual? Or are you on the road to fully digitizing in terms of maintaining financial records? We'll start with the Princestown Corporation first.
To the Chair, our system is a manual system that is being utilized at the corporation.
Any plans to digitize?
Not in the near future, given the limited resources, allocations, and all of that, and that has not been considered.
All right. Mayaro, Rio Claro.
Chair, through you, the member. The Mayaro Corporation, we have a dual system where we have the manual documents. We were able to afford the scanned system through the period 2012 to 2018 as a part of the accounting software, where only goods and services payment vouchers would have been scanned at the processing time. We do have to extend the system towards other documents. So right now we're in the process of looking at that with head office IT as well as our IT unit to see what feasible system we could have done to continue with that system for all the documents, both legal and financial, in the corporation.
Okay. And just one more question. Where do you store your records at this time? Princestown, financial records, that is, Princestown Corporation?
We have a heavy vault that is properly secured.
Fireproof?
fireproof
Okay. At the corporation?
at the corporation, yes.
Okay. And Mayaro, Rio Claro?
Yes, at our administrative building, we do have a concrete walled steel door vault. We have a vault keeper as well, and that is where all our financial documents are stored.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Defeater.
Mr. Chair, thank you. This is Princess Town. Based on the internal audit check conducted by the ministry, it was revealed that all documents requested by the internal auditors were furnished with the exception of a void checks file. To date, has the corporation furnished the ministry with that void check file?
Through the chair, the member, the staff at the corporation had, well, we had responded to the ministry, and we have our documents and those minor errors corrected, and the file have been prepared. So it's still at our position in the regional corporation.
So you still have the void checks file? You haven't sent it to the ministry yet?
No, through the chair, not yet. It's a big document, and as a matter of fact, we are trying to get the council to make approval so that we can advertise those checks. So which we are going to do in the next week.
To Rio Claro, Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, it was noted that an estimated amount of $95,000 was spent on legal services for 3 high court matters. Please indicate in general terms what these court matters are concerned with, and how long have these matters been before the courts?
I didn't hear the second part of your question, sorry.
How long have these matters been before the courts?
The specifics, Mr. Chairman, I would submit that in writing, but I can give you, just off the top of my head, 2 of these matters are related to scavenging contractors who, over a period of time, did not, as far as we are concerned, Mayaro, did not honor the terms of their contractual obligations. And bearing in mind it was the markets involved, the corporation had to send in internal staff to have it at some sanitized or hygienic level, if you want to call it, over time. One of the actions we filed, and we got a court award of, I can't remember the figure, it's around $1 million, either up or down of $1 million. However, the decision has been challenged, right, on one matter. And those are 2 matters. And the third one that involves a woman who, again, alleges that she was injured for quite a substantial sum by falling into a manhole, open manhole, sorry. So basically, those are the 3 matters. Just basically, I can give some cursory information. If the committee so requires, I can do detailed submissions.
We will appreciate those detailed in writing.
Okay.
That will be gathered. And so in closing, I may want to say, does any members have any? Oh, Mr. Defeater.
Thank you. In relation to the void checks, I had another question. Has the corporation completed the list of unpresented checks for September 2018? Ms. Princess Town.
Yeah, through the chair, yes. Yes, sir.
I must say, in terms of manholes, are there a problem in your corporation with that, Rio Claro, a lot? Because certain other corporations, there's a lot of complaints from members of the public. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the price of steel by the scrap market, used by scrap iron dealers, seems to be lucrative. So you have a lot of that. What we have done because of funding issues, we have now gone from steel in certain instances to using lumber. We really just literally plug in the hole. Right? That has not been removed in most instances, but we have had a number of instances where when the manholes are made out of iron or metal manhole covers, it's removed.
Chairman, I just want to state for the record that there have been manhole covers made out of solid vinyl, a plastic type material that lasts longer, and it's often made out of, it's more expensive, but it lasts longer than the wood. So it is an option for you. Chairman, before we close though, at present on the entire East Coast, there is the whole challenge of the sargassum seaweed. And I want to ask, well, I think Mayaro Regional Corporation, you have a substantial portion of the coast. What role is the corporation playing in, well, attempting to clear up the beaches, and what challenges have you had?
And does tourism also play a part in that, the Ministry of Tourism?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the beaches, and by extension, the shoreline and the coastline, the beach front, is the remit of the Ministry of Tourism. However, the Mayaro Claro Corporation, we have this sargassum, the seaweed problem for a number of years. We have tried at best in-house over what we call the peak period, which is where we have a high local, whether it's local or foreign tourists, people flocking to the beaches of Mayaro. It's for the carnival period, the Easter period, and parts of the what we call in Trinidad, the summer vacation. Like over this Easter weekend, we paid our workers some overtime. They would go and do some in what we call the high traffic areas where a large amount of people flock to that beachfront. And we've done some clearing. But the problem is with the seaweed, is if you clear it 10 o'clock in the morning, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's back there. If you see the volume that is out in the waters itself, that keeps, it comes in. So no matter what you do, it repeats itself very quickly in a couple of hours. Right? So all we do is what we have to say is cosmetic.
So does the Ministry of Tourism support you in that venture? Do you think, because I'm hearing this morning that you may not have been getting the adequate support from various ministries. Does the Ministry of Tourism, whose duty this falls under, come up to mark to support this venture?
Mr. Chairman, support, I don't know what you mean by support is two-pronged, right? Whether it's lending whether you're lending some machinery, we don't get any from Ministry of Tourism. Whether you're lending personnel, we don't get any from the Ministry of Tourism. Whether it's for funding, we don't get any from the Ministry of Tourism. However, with everybody, the social media and the public outcry is directed towards the Municipal Corporation, namely the Mayaro Corporation in this instance. So we, as best as possible, try to do, as I said, some cosmetic works to make it usable.
Chairman, through you, is this an area that you see as a special need in your corporation for funding or to provide support?
I know in our estimates for the last couple of years, and inclusive this year, our recurrent estimates, we've been asking for funding to deal with it. With the constrained economic circumstances, we've not been successful.
Is the corporation aware that this particular problem has been utilized to a sort of an advantage in other countries where they take the seaweed and they dry it and do some processing of it and then create a product out of it? Has the corporations ever looked into that as a way of treating with the issue?
If I can term it at this stage, expressions of interest. We've had a lot of persons asking and inquiring, right? When we remove the seaweed, we place it at a site in Mafikin for people who know the region, where we have our cremation facility. But it's there. We allow it to be used for public consumption. Anybody who wants, you can come and take whatever. These persons who are using this term loosely, these expressions of interest, we've articulated that to them, but there's really nothing been forthcoming.
Well, I think probably small business enterprise should, somebody could explore that because it is a business opportunity. And so thank you for that suggestion, Mr. De Freitas. I hope someone could now take that up and use that opportunity. So I'd like now to, in closing, since there's no other questions, I presume, I would like to invite the chief officials to make brief closing remarks, starting with the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Jennifer Daniel.
Chair, I would start by saying, providing a commitment or an explanation that we are aware of funding challenges, and we have compiled a list of critical areas. I'm sure to all corporations, all of the areas are critical, but we have worked out a list of critical areas and to make approaches to the Ministry of Finance for funding. In fact, the request for that came from that source. So that information, if it has not been provided as of yesterday, it will be provided. And we are hopeful that we will receive the funding in critical areas. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here and to pursue matters. I will confess that because we have been coming back, it has probably forced us to be on our toes and to ensure that we follow through on certain commitments. So rest assured that we will continue, even though we don't have to come back, we will continue with our efforts to put things in place to ensure that there is continued and improved financial oversight of the corporations. Thank you.
Well, I also enjoy your presence here in the last few meetings, and I think we may decide to have another meeting, who knows, as a follow-up. So thank you, and I noted you've noticed the challenge that we face, and I'm hoping you can work towards that. Would the official of the Princestown Regional Corporation, the chairman, Mr. Gauri Rupnarayan, give some closing remarks?
Experience here this morning and this afternoon for me, but I assure Mr. Chairman, you also would have realized some of the challenges we have in the corporation, because I am really hoping that one of the persons who was listening today is the Minister of Finance, because at the Princestown Regional Corporation, there are some of the tenants where our councillors' office are now sending letters to me that they will be evicted by the end of this month, because for this year, we have not received any funding to pay these landowners. Even the councillors, even stipend to run their own offices, no funding. And Mr. Chairman, I sure you heard when the representative from the ministry mentioned that since January, a correspondent going to the Ministry of Finance just to sort out something for the chairman fund. At the Princestown Regional Corporation, we don't use the chairman fund to fet or to lime, but we use it to uplift the youths and the needy in the region. And for the Easter gone, we could not even have that opportunity to give a group that will try to better their lives within the region as much as $500 to help. So I do hope that the Minister of Finance really listen and something positive happen out of this. I thank you very much.
And I appreciate your presence here. And as you say, it's a learning experience for you, and I'm sorry to keep you in the afternoon, as you mentioned, but we are about to close. So at this stage, I would like the chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation to give some closing remarks. And when I say the last chairman, I knew there was the late Hansraj Sumer Singh. And I realized sometimes a chairmanship job may be a dangerous job. So I would like you to give some, I thank you for your presence and would like you to give some closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I really want to thank you all for having us here this morning into this afternoon. A lot was said, a lot of questions were asked, and I think in terms of the Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation, we were able to answer as best as possible questions asked. And we just look forward to, in terms of some of the issues that were raised here, that it could be a bit beneficial to the corporation, because I don't want to reiterate some of the issues that were raised, but the issue of funding is a major concern, and in order to do our jobs the way we're supposed to, we need to receive this funding to deliver to the burgesses of the region. So I'm hoping that whoever the powers may be, that we receive the funding to actually deliver to the people of the region of Mayaro Rio Claro. So again, so thank you to you and your members for having us from the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation.
Thank you. And I'm The officials, I want to thank all the other officials for their attendance and their participation. I want to thank the members of the media for their attendance, and to thank the committee members and staff for their participation and support. And this is the 14th meeting we had in this regard. The fourth meeting we had in this regard, and I'm saying that the report will be forthcoming hopefully shortly, and then we may hopefully get some sort of relief to the members of your committee and your burgesses. And at this point, if there is no further business for consideration, I would say that I would like to declare this meeting adjourned, and thank you again for coming, and please reach safe back to your places of